was born Anna Mae Bullock in Nutbush, Tennessee, a tomboy, she says, from a broken home. When she first laid eyes on Ike Turner, a popular singer in a St. Louis nightclub, her reaction, well, was mixed.
I thought he was the ugliest person I'd ever seen. I'd never seen anybody that skinny, but he had a presence. Mm-hmm. And then I watched him and he got on stage and he started, I thought, oh, wow, I want to sing with that band.
When the spotlight shines bright and the applause echoes through the crowd, few pause to consider the shadows which often lie behind fame. Anna Mae Bullock, known to the world as Tina Turner, rose to prominence with a voice that electrified audiences and a stage presence that commanded attention. But behind the dazzling performances and the chart-topping hits was a darker tale, one of control, manipulation, and violence at the hands of the man who helped shape her career, Ike Turner. Born in Nutbush, Tennessee in 1939, Tina's journey to stardom began with a chance encounter at a nightclub in St. Louis, Missouri. It was there where she met Ike Turner, a charismatic musician already known for his pioneering work in rock and roll. Ike saw something in Tina, raw talent, an undeniable spark, and promised to turn her into a star. He gave her his last name, transforming her from Anna Mae to Tina Turner. But was this a gift of partnership or a mark of possession? Their musical collaboration was magic. Songs like River Deep, Mountain High and Proud Mary made the Ike Tina Turner Revue a global sensation. On stage, they were electric. Off stage, the story was far more sinister. By Tina's own account, Ike's behavior was controlling and increasingly violent. He demanded absolute obedience, often resorting to psychological and physical abuse in order to maintain his dominance. The more successful they became, the more the walls closed in around Tina. What drove Ike's need for control? Was it jealousy, insecurity, or something much more profound? Tina's rise in the spotlight threatened to eclipse his own, and he wielded his fear like a weapon to keep her in his grasp. Friends, bandmates, and even family members reportedly turned a blind eye, too afraid of Ike's temper to intervene. How many people knew what was happening behind closed doors, but chose silence over action? Their dynamic was further complicated by the blurred lines between their personal and professional lives. The same energy which fueled their electrifying performances also seemed to feed the volatility of their relationship. Fans who adored their music and charisma on stage were completely unaware of the private horror which Tina endured. Every hit song, every standing ovation came at a personal cost which few could ever comprehend. Yet, Tina's ability to perform with such passion despite her circumstances only added to her mystique, masking the pain that she carried. Despite the violence, Tina endured for years, determined to protect her career and her children. But the breaking point came in 1976 during a Dallas tour stop. In a now infamous incident, Tina fled from Ike, bruised and bloodied, clutching only 36 cents and a gas station credit card. It was a dramatic escape that left many questions. Why did she wait so long? And how did she find the strength to leave when so many others in similar situations can't? Her decision to walk away marked the beginning of a grueling battle for independence. Tina faced years of financial hardship as she rebuilt her career from the ground up, performing in small venues and relying on sheer determination. She refused to let her past define her, slowly reclaiming her identity and establishing herself as a solo artist. In doing so, Tina Turner became more than a performer. She became a beacon of hope for survivors of abuse, proving that it was, in fact, possible to break free and thrive. Tina's departure marked the beginning of a new chapter, but the scars from her time with Ike would linger. In later interviews, she would reveal the extent of the torture she had endured, painting a harrowing picture of life under Ike's control. Yet, despite the trauma, Tina rebuilt her life and her career, becoming a symbol of resilience and survival. But at what cost? Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to Memento Mori Stories. I'm Ella Favela, your guide through the darker corners of the human experience. If you're captivated by the mysteries of life, where coffee fuels your curiosity and tales of true crime send chills down your spine, you've found your place. Whether you're a returning listener or you're just tuning in for the first time, I'm excited to have you join us. So, get comfortable and let's explore a spine-tingling narrative. If you thrive on stories that challenge your perception and keep you on edge, make sure to hit that subscribe button and to ring the notification bell. We release new content every 2 weeks, and we'd be honored to have you join us for the ride into the shadows. If you're intrigued by what happens behind the scenes of my life, make sure to follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. I've always got something exciting happening, and I'd love for you to be a part of my community. You'll find all of the links conveniently displayed on the screen, and they're clickable down below. Before we go any further, we need to discuss what's coming up. Today's episode covers a deeply impactful and sensitive story which may evoke strong emotions in my listeners. Please remember that we don't just tell stories on this channel. These are real-life events which have had profound effect on individuals and their communities. Please be advised, this channel is not intended for minors. This episode includes graphic content and in-depth discussions on addiction, domestic abuse, violence, and assault. Listener discretion is strongly advised. Given the intensity of these themes, it is essential for you to take care of your mental and emotional well-being. We believe in the importance of openly discussing these issues to foster greater understanding and empathy. However, we also recognize the potential for listener distress. If at any point you feel uncomfortable, or if any of these topics resonate too closely with your own lived experiences, it is completely fine to take a step back and to skip today's episode. Your mental and emotional well-being is my top priority, and it's crucial for you to honor your own needs and boundaries. As we continue to explore these harrowing stories, please remember that the aim of this channel is not to sensationalize pain, rather, to honor the victims and to shed light on the realities which they endured. We wish to create a space where these difficult conversations lead to greater awareness and ultimately to change. By understanding the darker aspects of human behavior, we hope to contribute to the broader dialogue on prevention and support for those affected by such violence. If you or somebody that you love is dealing with these issues or carrying the weight of past trauma, please know that you are not alone. There are resources and support systems available to help you. I've included a list of links and contacts in the description box of this video, which may offer you some assistance. Whether you seek support from a professional, talk to a trusted confidant, or simply take a break from consuming heavy media, there are many pathways to your healing. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Let's approach these stories with the compassion and respect which they deserve, and strive to learn from them in ways which promote understanding and healing. Now, it's time to grab your coffee and settle in as we unravel the twisted case of Tina Turner.
A legend in show business and rock and roll music, and has the best legs on the planet. Ladies and gentlemen, here she is, Tina Turner. Tina!
Anna Mae Bullock was born on November 26, 1939, in the rural community of Nutbush, Tennessee. She emerged from humble beginnings to become an icon of resilience and determination. Growing up in a modest household, her life was shaped by the hardworking, close-knit environment of her small town. Her parents, Floyd and Zelma Bullock, were sharecroppers who toiled in the fields, instilling in Tina a strong work ethic. Life in Nutbush was simple but demanding, and the economic challenges of the time were a constant presence. Despite this, Tina's vivacious personality and boundless energy distinguished her from an early age. As the youngest of Floyd and Zelma's two daughters, Tina often relied on her older sister, Aline, for support and companionship. However, their childhoods were far from stable. Her parents' tumultuous marriage was marked by frequent conflict and separations. This instability culminated in both parents leaving the family when Tina was just 11 years old. Her and her sister were sent to live with their maternal grandmother, Georgiana Curry, in Brownsville, Tennessee. Under her grandmother's care, Tina found a sense of stability which had been missing from her earlier years. Georgiana's disciplined and nurturing approach provided a foundation which would shape Tina's character, fostering a deep sense of independence and self-reliance. Music was a cornerstone of her upbringing. From an early age, she showcased her vocal talent in the choir at the Spring Hill Baptist Church. Her powerful voice and natural charisma quickly set her apart. Singing in the choir was more than a pastime. It was a formative experience which nurtured her passion for performance. Her love for music became a defining feature of her personality, and even as a child, her energy and confidence drew constant attention. Her teenage years were a mix of ordinary adolescent experiences and the seeds of her future stardom. Tina and Aline attended Flag Grove School, a small one-room schoolhouse, before moving to St. Louis, Missouri to live with her mother. In St. Louis, she enrolled at Sumner High School, where she was exposed to a much broader world of music and culture. The vibrant rhythm and blues scene captivated her, and artists like B.B. King and Louis Jordan became major influences. This exposure played a crucial role in shaping her distinctive vocal style and musical identity. Tina's early experiences also reflect her unyielding drive and resilience. She worked various jobs to help support herself and her family, including roles as a domestic helper and a nurse's aide. These experiences, though challenging, strengthened her resolve and underscored her determination to succeed. Despite all the hardship she faced, Tina's optimism and ambition never wavered. Her relationships with her friends and family were pivotal during this period. Aline, in particular, introduced Tina to the nightlife of St. Louis, where she encountered live performances which only further fueled her passion for music. It was in these vibrant clubs that Tina's natural stage presence and magnetic charisma began to shine. She quickly became a standout figure, hinting at the legendary performer she would later become. Ike Turner was a pioneering musician and producer whose influence on the development of rock and roll is both significant and far-reaching. Born Izir Lester Turner Jr. on November 5, 1931, in Clarksdale, Mississippi, he grew up immersed in the vibrant blues culture of the Mississippi Delta. This early exposure to music laid the foundation for his groundbreaking career. Ike's love for music began in his youth. He taught himself to play piano by ear and eventually learned guitar. As a teenager, he became a regular at juke joints and honed his skills under the mentorship of local musicians. One pivotal figure in his life was Pinetop Perkins, who taught Turner how to play boogie-woogie piano. By the age of 11, Ike was already performing in local clubs, demonstrating prodigious talent. In high school, Ike formed his first band, the Kings of Rhythm, which would later become a cornerstone of his career. The Kings of Rhythm quickly gained popularity in the Clarksdale area, known for their energetic performances, blending blues, jazz, and early rock elements. Turner's ability to adapt to different musical styles showcased his versatility and set him far apart from his peers. In 1951, Ike Turner and the Kings of Rhythm recorded the song Rocket 88 at Sun Studio in Memphis, Tennessee. Credited to Jackie Brenston and his Delta Cats, the song featured Turner's band, with Brenston on vocals. Often regarded as one of the first rock and roll records, Rocket 88 became a hit, reaching the top of the Billboard R&B chart. His innovative use of distorted guitar, which was a result of a damaged amplifier, gave the song a raw, dynamic edge, which influenced the emerging rock and roll genre. Following the success of Rocket 88, Turner worked as a talent scout and a session musician for various labels, including Sun Records and Chess Records. He had a knack for discovering talent and played a pivotal role in launching the careers of several notable artists. Ike's contributions as a session musician further solidified his reputation as a versatile and skilled performer. Throughout the 1950s, Turner and the Kings of Rhythm toured extensively across the South. Their live performances drew large crowds and earned them a loyal following. His leadership style was both demanding and inspiring, as he constantly pushed his band to achieve excellence. His meticulous attention to detail and innovative arrangements ensured that the Kings of Rhythm remained at the forefront of the ever-evolving music scene. Ike's work during this period demonstrated his deep understanding of rhythm and blues and his ability to experiment with different sounds. He was instrumental in bridging the gap between blues and rock and roll, creating a solid foundation for future artists to build upon. By the late 1950s, Ike Turner had already left an indelible stain on American music. His early achievements, characterized by innovation and a relentless drive for success, cemented his place as a pioneer in the history of rock and roll. Anna Mae Bullock first encountered Ike Turner in 1957 at the Manhattan Club in East St. Louis, Illinois. Anna Mae, then 18 years old, was visiting the club with her sister Aline. Enthralled by Ike's dynamic stage presence and musical prowess, she couldn't resist the pull of the music and seized the chance to sing during one of his band's sets. Her voice, raw and unpolished, yet undeniably powerful, stopped Ike in his tracks. Instantly recognizing her potential, he invited her to join his band as a vocalist, marking the beginning of a transformative partnership. From the beginning, Ike assumed the role of mentor, helping Anna Mae to develop her stage presence, to refine her vocal technique, and to navigate the competitive music industry. He would encourage her to adopt the stage name Tina Turner, envisioning it as one that exuded strength and star power. The new name, paired with her commanding voice, marked the birth of a performer who would soon captivate audiences everywhere. In July 1960, Anna Mae Bullock was introduced to the world as Tina Turner with the release of the single A Fool in Love. The track was an instant success, climbing to number 2 on the Hot R&B Sides chart and reaching number 27 on the Billboard Hot 100. Music journalist Kurt Loder described the song as, quote, the blackest record to ever creep into the white pop charts since Ray Charles gospel-styled What Did I Say the previous summer. With its raw energy and Tina's fiery vocal delivery, A Fool in Love marked the official debut of the Ike and Tina Turner Revue and signaled the arrival of a transformative new voice in music.
It's a pleasure to be here and be the host of the Palace again this year, and tonight we got a show that really rocks. So I don't want to waste a second with idle chatter. We're going to get right down to the meat of this matter. To open up the show tonight, we got a treat for you, and I warn you, you will not be able to sit in your seats. You know why? 'Cause it's Ike and Tina Turner. Ike and Tina Turner. Ike and Tina Turner and their review for you, for you, for you.
The duo's momentum continued with subsequent hits, including It's Gonna Work Out Fine in 1961, which reached number 14 on the Hot 100 and number 2 on the R&B charts. The song's success earned them a Grammy nomination for Best Rock and Roll Performance, solidifying their reputations as rising stars. Between 1960 and 1962, they released a string of R&B charting singles, including I Idolize You, Poor Fool, and Tra-La-La-La-La, further establishing their place in the music industry. To support their growing popularity, Ike would restructure the Ike and Tina Turner Revue. This ensemble included his band, the Kings of Rhythm, as well as a dynamic girl group, the Ikeettes, who provided backing vocals and choreography. The Revue became known for its electrifying performances, driven by Tina's powerful stage presence and Ike's meticulous arrangements. Their grueling touring schedule would see them perform for 90 consecutive days across the United States, building their reputation on the Chitlin circuit as one of the most exciting and polished R&B acts of the era. They were often compared to the James Brown Revue for their intensity and showmanship, performing in front of desegregated audiences in Southern clubs, which was a significant achievement in the segregated South. As Ike and Tina's star continued to rise, the spotlight undeniably shone the brightest on Tina. Her performances and growing creative contributions quickly made her the face of the duo, captivating audiences worldwide. Her charisma and stage presence were unmatched, earning the admiration of fans and fellow artists alike. However, beneath the glittering facade of their success, cracks in their professional and personal relationships began to form. Behind closed doors, the dynamics of their partnership were far more complicated than they appeared to the public. Ike Turner, the mastermind behind the Revue's meticulous arrangements and relentless touring schedule, would increasingly exert control over every aspect of Tina's life and career. What had started as a professional collaboration driven by mutual ambition quickly devolved into a volatile relationship marked by manipulation and violence. As Tina's star power grew, so too did Ike's insecurity and need to dominate, creating an environment of hidden fear and oppression which belied their public image as one of music's most dynamic duos. Despite their monumental success, the story of Ike and Tina is not just one of groundbreaking music and incredible performance. Beneath the shimmering surface of fame lay a harrowing reality that Tina endured silently for years. Their relationship, which began with respect and shared passion, quickly devolved into a nightmare marked by control and violence. Tina's early connection to Ike Turner was far from romantic. When they first met in 1956, Tina likened their relationship to that of, quote, a brother and sister from another lifetime. She admired Ike for his musical genius and his ability to command a room, while he was captivated by her raw talent and potential. Their bond remained platonic for years, even as Tina became an integral part of Ike's Kings of Rhythm. However, their relationship shifted in 1960 under complicated circumstances. As Tina sought comfort after a threatening encounter with another musician, she turned to Ike, and their connection became more intimate. What began as a friendship driven by respect and ambition soon evolved into a relationship that would define both of their lives. But it came with a dark and destructive side, which would eventually unravel everything they had built together. After recording the hit single A Fool in Love in 1960, Tina Turner faced a troubling reality in her relationship with Ike. Pregnant and emotionally drained, she expressed her desire to end their relationship. Ike's reaction to this was swift and brutal. He struck her on the head with a wooden shoe stretcher. Tina would later reflect on this incident as the moment he, quote, instilled fear in her for the first time. Despite the shocking violence, Tina chose to stay, admitting, quote, I really did care about him. This decision marked the beginning of a harrowing chapter in her life, one defined by a pattern of physical, emotional, financial, and psychological abuse that would continue for years. Following the birth of their son Ronnie in October 1960, the couple relocated to Los Angeles in 1962 and would marry in Tijuana, Mexico. By 1963, Ike purchased a house in the upscale View Park neighborhood, bringing together their blended family: Ronnie, Tina's son Craig from a previous relationship, and Ike's two sons, Ike Jr. and Michael, from his previous relationship with Lorraine Taylor. While publicly they appeared to have a thriving family and professional partnership, behind closed doors, Tina endured relentless mistreatment. Ike's constant infidelity and controlling behavior created a toxic environment where fear and despair became her companions in life. In her 2018 memoir, My Love Story, a Memoir, Tina Turner opened up about the harrowing details of her wedding day and night, a moment she described as emblematic of her troubled relationship. She was reluctant to marry Ike and admitted that she felt trapped. Quote, "I didn't have much choice. By the time he proposed, we had 4 children between us and a shared career as the Ike and Tina Turner Revue.
Her resistance was futile.
Knowing it would provoke Ike's anger and likely lead to violence if she refused. The wedding itself, in Tijuana, was overshadowed by his cruelty. After the ceremony, Ike took Tina to a brothel, forcing her to endure a degrading experience. Quote, "I was miserable, on the verge of tears, but there was no escape. We couldn't leave until Ike was ready, and he was having a fine old time." By the mid-1960s, Tina and Ike were a formidable force in the music industry, touring relentlessly and producing a string of singles and albums. Their professional success, however, was a stark contrast to Tina's personal turmoil. Behind the curtain of their dynamic stage show lay a deeply abusive relationship. According to Tina's memoir, Ike's violence was relentless. He gave her black eyes, broke her jaw, and once even poured scalding coffee on her face. Alongside the physical abuse, he would routinely cheat on her with multiple women, further exacerbating her sense of isolation and despair. Reflecting on this tumultuous period, in a 2018 interview with The Times, Tina explained the motivation behind Ike's cruelty. Quote, "There was violence because he had this fear that I was going to leave him. The other women, because I didn't love him that way. The other women weren't so bad. It was the constant ill treatment." His insecurities and possessiveness manifested in horrifying ways, making Tina's life a near constant battle for survival. Despite the abuse, Tina's talent shone brightly, capturing the attention of legendary producer Phil Spector in 1966. Under Spector's direction, she recorded River Deep, Mountain High, a song which showcased her powerful voice against his signature wall of sound production. Although the single failed to achieve commercial success in the United States, it was a hit in the United Kingdom, cementing her status as an international star. This led to the Ike and Tina Turner Revue joining the Rolling Stones on tour, exposing Tina to a broader audience and foreshadowing the independent career which lay just ahead.
I never doubted myself because I've been performing long enough to know that I'm good at that. That's all I've ever done. That I know I can do.
Still, the professional accolades could not shield Tina from the emotional and physical toll of her relationship with Ike. The abuse, coupled with his controlling behavior, began to take a severe toll on her mental health. While her powerful stage persona dazzled audiences, behind the scenes, she was struggling with feelings of entrapment and hopelessness. By the late 1960s, Tina's resilience was being tested as the cycle of violence and exploitation seemed unending. In 1968, in a desperate attempt to escape the pain, Tina attempted to take her own life by overdosing on Valium, a moment of profound hopelessness in a life overshadowed by Ike's control and endless abuse. She was hospitalized, but ultimately forced to return to work almost immediately upon her release. Ike was indifferent to her physical and emotional recovery, insisting she resume performing, tightening his control over her. In her memoir, Tina reflected on how she emerged from that dark period with a newfound sense of purpose. Quote, "I came out of the darkness believing that I was meant to survive. I was here for a reason." Her survival was fueled by an unwavering inner strength, though she continued to endure unimaginable abuse behind closed doors. The early 1970s brought many professional triumphs, including their smash hit, Proud Mary, which became the duo's best-selling single and also won a Grammy for the Best R&B Vocal Performance by a Group. On stage, they captivated their audience, masking the reality of what Tina was facing at home. Behind the curtain, however, their relationship was crumbling. At this point, Ike was spiraling into a severe cocaine addiction, his drug use exacerbating his violent and erratic behavior. His addiction ravaged his body, leaving him with a deteriorating nasal septum and frequent nosebleeds, while also fueling his paranoia and his cruelty. In her memoir, Tina recounted the unrelenting physical abuse which she suffered at his hands. Quote, "He used my nose as a punching bag so many times that I could taste blood running down my throat when I sang. The assaults were relentless. He broke my jaw, and I couldn't remember what it was like not to have a black eye." Even as she achieved more and more fame, her life remained a constant battle, with her survival hinging on her ability to endure Ike's abuse while maintaining the facade of their celebrated partnership. By 1976, Tina Turner reached a breaking point, and no amount of fame, fortune, or success could disguise the emotional and physical toll which she had endured. Despite their rising stardom, her life with Ike had become a vicious cycle of abuse, manipulation, and fear. Ike's increasing drug use and erratic behavior had driven him into a deep state of paranoia, fueling his violent tendencies. Behind their glamorous performances and their high-energy shows, their private life was a stark contrast, filled with constant turmoil. What should have been a celebratory time for their careers was overshadowed by the mental and physical scars that Ike inflicted on Tina. Despite being in the limelight, she felt as if she were in prison. The turning point came in Dallas, Texas, where the couple was staying at the Statler Hilton while on tour. That night, Tina recalls a heated argument with Ike in their limousine on the way to the hotel. For years, Tina had accepted Ike's controlling behavior and abuse, but on this night, something in her shifted. For the first time ever, she stood her ground and fought back. Ike, already deep into his addiction, was enraged by her defiance. His violent reaction was immediate. In the back of their limousine, he struck her, a brutal, unforgiving reminder of the physical power he had over her. The assault was a physical manifestation of the emotional and psychological torment that Tina had been enduring for years. But as the hits landed, something else shifted in Tina's mind. It was the moment she realized that she could no longer live underneath Ike's tyranny. As she nursed the wounds from that attack, a question haunted her. What would happen if I just grabbed a bag and ran? In her memoir, she writes candidly about how that thought grew into an overwhelming urge to escape. His escalating drug use had made him so unpredictable, and his violent rages were becoming unbearable. The cycle of abuse had been unrelenting, And Tina, once an optimistic young woman who had dreamed of a better life, had begun to accept a fate she had never imagined for herself. Tina had become a shadow of her former self, constantly walking on eggshells, living in constant fear of Ike's outbursts. But that night in Dallas, something inside her shifted. The question she asked herself earlier lingered, and for the first time, she considered leaving, truly leaving, and taking control of her life again. This time, it was different, she realized. This time, I can walk away. With only 36 cents in her pocket and bloodstains from the fight still on her clothes, Tina made a life-altering decision. She didn't pack a suitcase or make plans for where she would go. There was no escape route mapped out for her. The only thing she had was the raw, visceral will to be free. In the dead of night, she quietly slipped out of the hotel, determined to find a way out. The night was dark, the air was heavy, and she knew she was taking a monumental risk. But there was no turning back now. She chose the kitchen exit of the hotel, hoping to avoid detection, and then she made a desperate sprint towards the freeway. The streets were eerily silent as Tina began her journey, her heart pounding in her chest. As she crossed the busy freeway on foot, she was acutely aware of the danger. Speeding cars and trucks whizzed by, barely missing her, but Tina didn't stop. She was running for her life, and every moment that passed made it clearer to her that the only way out was through the perilous road ahead. Quote, "I didn't measure the speed of a car. I was running across the freeway, and this big truck was coming and it beeped its horn. It felt like it was over me, and I thought, well, I won't try that again." Her escape was fraught with physical danger, yet Tina pressed on. The peril she faced was not just in crossing the highway, but in the life-threatening decision she had made to leave the man who had controlled her for so long. As she continued to run, Tina reflected on the years of her suffering. The violence had been constant. Each day, a new threat, a new assault, a new mental and emotional scar. Her life had become an exhausting battle, not just for survival, but for her very soul. The relationship with Ike had become a cage. There was no room for joy, for peace, for freedom. There was only control, fear, and endless violence. As she sprinted across that freeway, Tina knew that the time had come to break free from the prison that had been her life for so long. She could no longer live in constant fear, no longer be subjected to Ike's cruelty. She could no longer be silenced. In that moment, her desire for freedom completely overwhelmed the fear that had held her captive for years. As she fled into the night, Tina didn't look back. She couldn't. Her life, her safety, and her sanity depended on her not turning around. The pain of the years with Ike would not simply vanish overnight, but escaping him was the first step towards her healing. Tina knew that the road ahead would not be easy. She had no money, no safe place to go, and nowhere to turn. But she had her will to survive. That would have to be enough.
But Tina, it got to the point where you finally left, you decided to fight back, something you had never done before. And when I say fight back, I mean physically you fought back.
I felt that I've had enough, just enough. Now it's time to go out the door. I had nothing. I had absolutely nothing. 36 cents, that was all.
So here you are, you have to start over. You've had this career of Ike and Tina, and now you are Tina Turner. Are you thinking that you're going to be a success as Tina Turner at the age of close to 40?
I didn't think about the singing at all. First of all, I was thinking about where I was going to lay my head, so to speak.
Yeah.
Then I was just enjoying the freedom of not being in that environment.
On July 27, 1976, Tina made the life-altering decision to file for divorce from Ike, citing irreconcilable differences. This step came after years of abuse, manipulation, and emotional torment. Her final straw had been reached, and she could no longer endure the toxic, violent marriage. The divorce petition included a request for $4,000 per month in alimony, $1,000 a month in child support, and full custody of her 2 sons, Craig and Ronnie. For Tina, the divorce wasn't just a legal matter. It was a desperate attempt to reclaim her life and her freedom from a man who had controlled and abused her for so long. At the time, she was left with very little in terms of financial security, and her career had taken a significant hit due to the years of abuse and the strain that it had placed on her personal and professional lives. The path ahead was challenging, but Tina was determined to rebuild. The divorce was finalized on March 29, 1978, and although the legal battle was over, the aftermath would be anything but easy. The final divorce decree placed some amount of blame on Tina for the couple's professional setbacks, including missed concert dates and an IRS lien that Ike had accrued. Tina's share of the financial fallout reflected her complicated role in their troubled marriage. However, the divorce decree did allow her to keep some valuable possessions. She retained songwriting royalties for the songs that she had written, although Ike would keep the publishing royalties for both his and her compositions. This was a bitter blow to Tina, who had contributed significantly to the music that had made them both famous. Tina also kept her 2 Jaguars, her furs, her jewelry, and, most notably, her stage name, ensuring that she would not be denied her identity as a performer. This was an incredibly important victory for Tina, as it allowed her to continue building her career under the name she had worked so hard to establish. However, she was forced to give Ike her share of their recording studio, as well as their publishing companies and real estate. Ike, in turn, would keep his 4 cars, a symbolic reminder of the vast wealth he had amassed from their music. Despite the financial victories, the aftermath of the divorce left Tina in a precarious position. Several promoters, left out of pocket by the couple's instability, sued Tina to recover their losses. As a result, she found herself struggling to rebuild her life from the ground up. For almost 2 years, Tina lived in financial distress, relying on food stamps to feed herself and her children. She played small clubs to pay off her debt, performing at venues that were a far cry from the sold-out arenas she had once filled with Ike. In 1981, Tina found herself at a crossroads, struggling to carve out a successful solo career after years of living in Ike's shadow. Despite facing enormous challenges both professionally and personally, Tina had started to rebuild her musical career. However, the lingering effects of abuse were still haunting her, and the trauma of her past continued to cast a long shadow. Determined to reclaim her voice and her narrative, Tina made the bold decision to publicly confront the abuse which she had endured during her marriage. Her decision to speak publicly about what she had gone through with Ike became an act of profound empowerment for survivors of domestic violence. By coming forward, Tina not only reclaimed her narrative, but also amplified the voices of countless women who had suffered in silence. Her willingness to share the painful details of her ordeal provided an unflinching look into the reality of abusive relationships, making her one of the most high-profile advocates for survivors of abuse. In 1981, she first openly discussed this in a shocking interview with People magazine. She shared how Ike had tried to intimidate her even after their divorce, citing disturbing incidents like gunshots fired at her home and threats made to her friends. Despite the fear, her decision to speak up marked a pivotal moment in her journey towards healing. Her openness about the abuse allowed her to process her own pain and also empowered others to confront their abusers. Turner's disclosure of her experience was a turning point in the public understanding of domestic abuse. At the time, there was significant stigma surrounding the subject, and many victims felt too ashamed or afraid to speak up. However, Tina's courage in acknowledging her suffering and sharing the impact it had on her provided validation to many survivors. It was no longer just a private tragedy. Rather, it became a public reckoning. Her willingness to confront her past demonstrated that healing was possible, even after years of trauma. Additionally, her resilience gave hope to those still trapped. By rising from the ashes of her torment, she showed that it was possible to thrive after abuse. Her comeback, culminating in the success of her 1984 album, Private Dancer, signified a powerful rebirth. Hits like What's Love Got to Do with It became anthems not just for her own personal victory, but for all women who had struggled to break free. Turner's triumph also had a ripple effect in popular culture, as her story helped shift the conversation around abuse in relationships. She became a symbol of strength and resilience for millions, demonstrating that survivors could rise above their circumstances and reclaim their dignity. Through her music, interviews, and eventual advocacy work, she showed that speaking up was not only crucial for personal healing, but important to bring attention to the broader social issue of domestic abuse. Moreover, her status as a global superstar gave her a platform which allowed her to break down stigma surrounding an incredibly taboo subject at the time. She became a voice for the voiceless, an advocate showing others that they weren't alone in their struggles. This shift in narrative was groundbreaking, and it also allowed her to reclaim her story on her own terms. She turned her trauma into a powerful tool for change. Through her courage, she demonstrated that survivors could emerge from their trauma and live fulfilling and empowered lives. Her journey from victim to victor resonated with hundreds of thousands of women who saw themselves in her story. She became a beacon of hope for survivors, showing them that there was a way out of their pain and that they could, in fact, take control of their futures. Her influence extended well beyond just music and the public eye. Her positive example and advocacy inspired great changes in how society viewed and addressed domestic abuse. Her willingness to be open about her past was not just personal catharsis, but also a catalyst for social change, as it encouraged others to speak out and to demand the support that they needed to escape. Before reaching the age of 30, Ike Turner was known for his strict personal discipline, particularly when it came to drugs and alcohol. In fact, he was so adamant about maintaining control over his band that he would fire anyone who used drugs. But everything changed when he was introduced to cocaine by two well-known figures at the International Hotel in Las Vegas. Although Ike did not initially seek the substance out, his first experience with it soon became a catalyst for his downward spiral. According to Ike, his introduction to cocaine began when two influential figures, believed by some to be Elvis Presley and Red Fox, offered him the drug. Initially intrigued by the high, Ike felt that cocaine allowed him to work longer and to write more music without the need for sleep. He became increasingly dependent on the substance, eventually spending large sums of money and time to fuel his addiction. Over time, the toll it was taking on his body would become evident. Ike was dealing with the physical consequences of his drug use, including a hole in his nasal septum, a direct result of the cocaine abuse. By the early 1970s, Ike's addiction had grown uncontrollable, with reports suggesting he had spent up to $11 million on the drug. His usage intensified, leading to him eventually freebasing crack cocaine, a more potent and dangerous form of the drug. With his increasing dependency, Ike became unpredictable, and his violence, already present before his drug use, worsened. Tina, who had already been subjected to years of abuse, found herself in an ever more dangerous situation as his behavior spiraled further out of control. His drug problem soon began to have a disastrous impact on his personal and professional life. His finances deteriorated, and by the 1980s, he was struggling to pay off debts, including an outstanding tax bill of over $12,000. His Bullock Sound Studio, a key part of his music empire, was sold, but it was destroyed in a fire on the very day that a potential buyer was meant to inspect it. This incident would mark the beginning of a series of financial and personal troubles for Ike, which were compounded by his drug arrests and convictions. In 1980, Ike was arrested after a SWAT team raided his studio, finding cocaine and a live hand grenade. This marked the first of many arrests as he continued to face legal issues throughout the decade. In the following years, Ike faced multiple arrests for cocaine possession, firearm offenses, and even an incident in which he was charged with conspiracy to sell $16,000 worth of cocaine. In 1985, he was arrested again, this time for possession and conspiracy to distribute drugs. These legal battles became a defining aspect of his later life, alongside his growing reputation as a reckless figure consumed by addiction. One of the most notorious incidents would come in 1981, when Ike was arrested for shooting a newspaper delivery man. Ike claimed that he fired a shot to scare the man away after accusing him of assaulting his wife and kicking his dog. Although Turner was acquitted of assault charges in 1982, his behavior continued to raise concerns. His erratic actions, fueled by his drug use, only worsened with time, leading to even more legal trouble. In 1986, Ike was arrested once again for cocaine possession and the illegal carry of a handgun. This would be the beginning of a downward spiral that culminated in his 1989 arrest for driving under the influence of cocaine. In 1990, he was sentenced to prison after being convicted of cocaine intoxication and driving under the influence. Serving 18 months of a 4-year sentence, Ike was released on parole in 1991. Throughout all of his legal troubles and his descent into addiction, Ike Turner maintained a defiant stance regarding the allegations that Tina had made against him. In a controversial interview with Spin magazine in 1985, Ike admitted to hitting Tina, but he downplayed the severity, saying, quote, "I don't regret nothing I've ever done." In his autobiography, Taking Back My Name, he echoed this sentiment, where he claimed that he slapped Tina but denied ever beating her. Despite his admission, he refused to take full responsibility for his actions, and his narrative would continue to paint him as someone who had been misunderstood or wrongfully portrayed. By the time of his death in 2007, Ike had become a cautionary tale of the destructive power of addiction and violence. His eventual death from a cocaine overdose at the age of 76 marked the end of a tumultuous life, defined by both brilliance and personal ruin. His story stands as a grim reminder of how addiction can corrode not only the body, but also relationships and careers, leaving behind a trail of destruction that no amount of success or talent can ever erase. Following Ike's death, Tina issued a brief statement through her spokesperson, saying, quote, "Tina hasn't had any contact with Ike in more than 30 years. No further comment will be made." Despite the years of abuse, Tina's sister, Aline, attended Ike's funeral, still considering him to be her brother-in-law. Phil Spector, who attended the funeral, criticized Tina. Reflecting on the past in 2018, Tina told the Sunday Times, quote, "As an old person, I have forgiven him, but I wouldn't work with him. Ike wasn't someone you could forgive and allow back in." In 1986, while she was still navigating the aftermath of her relationship with Ike, Tina met German music executive Erwin Bach. At the time, Erwin was sent by her European record label, EMI, to greet her at the Dusseldorf airport. He was over 16 years younger than Tina, but what began as a professional relationship soon blossomed into something more. Although they initially remained friends, by the end of that year, they were officially dating. Over the next 2 decades, their bond deepened, and in July 2013, after a 27-year relationship, Tina and Erwin married in a civil ceremony on the banks of Lake Zurich in Küsnacht, Switzerland. Tina's family life was unfortunately marked by further complexities. She had her 2 biological sons, Raymond and Ronnie, and had also adopted 2 of Ike's children, raising them as her own. Craig, who had been adopted by Tina, was found dead in 2018 in an apparent suicide. Ronnie, who had played bass guitar in several bands, including his parents' acts, passed away from complications of colon cancer in December 2022. Despite their professional successes, Tina faced significant challenges with her children. She would later acknowledge in her autobiography that after her divorce from Ike, she became somewhat estranged from all of her sons except Craig. The family dynamics were strained, and by the time of her death, reports indicated continued distance between Tina and her children. Her spiritual journey also played a critical role in her transformation. Raised in the Baptist Church, she would later find solace in Buddhism. Introduced to the practice by one of Ike's friends, Valerie Bishop, in 1973, Turner began chanting mantras as a way to cope with pain and hardship in her life. She later credited this practice for helping her find peace and empowerment, particularly in the darkest moments of her struggles. She continued to chant daily, likening it to the act of singing, which helped her to tap into her subconscious and to find the strength to change her life. By the time she settled in Switzerland, Tina had established a new chapter in her existence, free from the violence of her past. She began living at the Chateau Algonquin in Küsnacht in 1994, a serene location on the shores of Lake Zurich, and this would become her primary residence. Over the years, Tina acquired various properties, including homes in Cologne, London, Los Angeles, and a villa on the French Riviera. By 2013, she formally became a Swiss citizen, renouncing her U.S. citizenship. This move symbolized her deep connection to her new life and her desire to leave her past behind. Despite the peace that she found in Switzerland, Tina's health began to decline in the 2000s. In her 2018 memoir, she revealed that she had been living with high blood pressure since 1978, which had led to kidney damage and eventual kidney failure. In 2013, shortly after her wedding to Erwin, she suffered a stroke that required her to relearn how to walk. In 2016, she was diagnosed with intestinal cancer, which she attempted to treat with homeopathy, a decision which ultimately worsened her condition. Her health struggles led her to face the reality of kidney failure, and after Erwin offered to donate one of his kidneys, she underwent a transplant. Tina also became a member of Exit International, an organization that facilitates assisted suicide, acknowledging her own fear about the future while choosing to fight for her own survival. Her wealth, estimated at 225 million Swiss francs in 2022, was a true testament to her perseverance. From overcoming the trauma of her marriage to Ike to her rise as a solo artist and cultural icon, she proved that self-determination could reshape one's future. However, the emotional toll of her past remained a part of her life until the end, as she continued to reflect on the personal and professional challenges she had faced. In the years leading up to her death, Tina became a beloved figure not only for her music, but for her strength and for the transformation that she embodied. She had lived through one of the most abusive and controlling relationships in music history. Yet, she emerged stronger, finding love, peace, and spiritual solace in her later years. Her journey was one of pain, but also remarkable healing and reinvention, making her legacy an empowering message to victims of abuse everywhere. Tina Turner passed away on May 24, 2023, at the age of 83. She died at her home in Switzerland, surrounded by the peace which she had built in her later years. The world immediately mourned the loss of an icon whose music, strength, and resilience had touched millions of people worldwide. Her passing prompted an outpouring of tributes from fellow artists, including Beyoncé, Dolly Parton, and Madonna, who all hailed her as a transformative figure in music and culture. Fans and celebrities alike celebrated her groundbreaking contributions to rock, R&B, and pop music. She had long been regarded as the Queen of Rock and Roll, a title that reflected her electrifying performances and the raw passion in her voice. Her legacy is marked by both her powerful solo career and her earlier success with Ike, where she helped to define the future role of many women in rock and roll. Her musical career spanned decades, and her influence was undeniable. She had a unique ability to blend sensuality, strength, and vulnerability, qualities that helped her achieve success across multiple genres. Her voice was both unmistakable and unforgettable. Her defiance in the face of hardship was reflected in her music, often filled with both sorrow and triumph, striking a chord with fans around the globe. Her accolades were numerous and far-reaching. She sold over 100 million records worldwide, cementing her place among the best-selling artists of all time. Her career was marked by groundbreaking achievements, such as becoming the first artist to ever have a top 40 hit for 7 consecutive decades in the United Kingdom. Tina received 12 Grammy Awards, including a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award, which highlighted her enduring influence on music. Her recordings Proud Mary, River Deep, Mountain High, and What's Love Gotta Do With It were inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame, further cementing her legacy as one of the greatest voices in musical history. Beyond her career, her personal story was just as legendary. Her tumultuous past shaped much of her narrative, yet she emerged from these struggles to become an advocate. Her impact was felt not only in the music industry, but across the broader cultural landscape. She became a symbol of empowerment, especially for women who admired her ability to rebuild after leaving an abusive relationship. Through both her music and her life story, she became a beacon of hope, showing that reinvention was possible no matter the circumstances. In the wake of her death, many public figures outside of music also paid tribute to her. U.S. Presidents Joe Biden, Barack Obama, and Bill Clinton all expressed their admiration for her legacy, and British royalty also acknowledged her influence. King Charles III would allow her song, The Best, to be played during the changing of the guard, a fitting tribute to her iconic anthem. The West End theatres in London dimmed their lights in her honor, and flowers and tributes were placed at her Hollywood star. Her legacy lives on in the hearts of those she inspired, both through her music and her life. Her fearlessness, unapologetic individuality, and unwavering strength will continue to resonate with future generations. Her passing is not just the end of an era, but a reminder of the power of reinvention and the ability to find joy in life despite its many challenges. Tina's legacy will forever be marked by her unforgettable voice, her legacy as a trailblazer for women in rock and roll, and her enduring influence on both music and culture. Through her songs and her story, she will always remain simply the best. Just a day before her death in May 2023, a viral TikTok video surfaced, showcasing Tina's candid recounting of Ike's abuse, including the devastating moment that he broke her nose right before a performance. In the video, she spoke openly about the suffocating hold of abuse, how it ensnared her with children, debts, and a life that seemed impossible to escape. Her words were clear and unwavering. Survivors should never return to their abusers. This message, even after all these years, resonated deeply with viewers, many of whom shared their personal stories in the comments, expressing how Tina's testimony gave them the strength to leave their own abusers. Tina's honesty and resilience have left a profound impact, not just on those who lived through her earlier years of fame, but also on a new generation, many of whom were not yet born when her story first broke into the public consciousness. For them, Tina's story is a beacon of empowerment. Her ability to rise above and transform her life into one of success and self-determination continues to serve as a powerful example. Her influence continues to touch countless lives, especially for those navigating the difficult journey of escaping abuse. Her impact is a testament to the power of her voice, both as an artist and as a survivor. The courage she displayed in speaking out continues to inspire people around the globe, showing them that even in their darkest moments, there is always a path forward. Her legacy is so much more than music. It's a call to action for all of those who find themselves trapped, proving that escaping is not only possible, but can lead you to a life of empowerment and so much joy. Through Tina's example, a new generation of survivors is finding their voice and their strength, just as she did. By the time Tina retired from the stage, she had become a symbol of survival, not just of surviving domestic abuse, but all of life's relentless adversities. Her story became an inspiration to millions, proving that it's possible to rise from the ashes of despair, to find joy, and to live authentically. Despite everything she went through, Tina found peace. She forged a life filled with love and self-empowerment. Her final years were spent with someone she loved in a country she loved, reflecting the tranquility and personal fulfillment she worked a lifetime to achieve. Tina's legacy as a survivor will always be one of hope. She showed the world that while pain is inevitable, it doesn't have to define your existence. By embracing her strength and her vulnerability, she broke the chains of abuse, finding not only peace, but also the joy of living her life on her own terms. Her story remains a beacon for those struggling with their own battles, reminding them that peace and happiness are not only possible, but worth fighting for. Her name was Anna Mae, but she was better known as Tina, and this was her story. It is my honor and distinct privilege to place her directly where she belongs in this narrative, right in the center of it, never to be forgotten. If you or somebody that you know are facing domestic abuse, please know that you're not alone and that there is help available. Your safety and well-being are of the utmost importance. Remember that you deserve to live without fear and violence, and that there are people who care about your well-being and who wish to support you. You have the right to seek help and to pursue a life free from abuse. In the description box of this video, I have compiled a range of resources and helpful links that I personally used when leaving my abuser. I encourage you to explore them. You are capable of overcoming this, and I believe in you wholeheartedly. As we conclude this chapter, let us carry forward the lessons learned and continue the fight against domestic violence in all of its forms. Together, we can work towards creating a world where every individual feels safe, valued, and empowered to live without fear. The painting I have been working on today is called Mea Maxima Culpa, Through My Most Grievous Fault, and it's a Christmas present for my good friend. At the time of recording this voiceover, November 19th, 2024, I've completed the first layer of watercolor, so while I have no idea how long this will ultimately take me, I'm into it about 21 hours as of today, and I'll put the total elapsed time on the screen, right now, for the curious. It is 9 by 12 inches and will be composed of some combination of watercolor and gouache paint, Posca pen, India ink, and gilding foils on 300 GSM 140-pound cold-pressed block. This piece is not available for sale. However, many of my other original works are. My books are currently open to custom commissioned work as well, and I'm also taking pre-orders for my next print drop. So please visit my Instagram, at Memento Mori Art and see the pinned posts for more details on the next 19 images that will soon be available as prints, as well as to reserve yours at the discounted pre-order pricing. I ship for free across Canada, but I'm happy to ship globally for a nominal fee as well. If any of this sounds interesting to you, please send an email to hello@stageleftproject.ca. If you believe in the power of conversation, in dismantling the silence which shrouds domestic abuse, and in fostering empathy, then I invite you to be a part of the ever-growing Memento Mori Stories community. Subscribe to my channel to stay engaged with thought-provoking stories, discussions, and creative expressions. Together, we can be a force for awareness, understanding, and healing. Your subscription is not just a click, it's a pledge to be a part of a movement which embraces the power of storytelling to bring about positive change. Remember, every voice matters, and yours can be a catalyst for good. Subscribe, share, and let's continue this journey together. Remember, one day you will die, but for now, live well. Ciao for now.